Hey everyone, Sean here, and today I'm on the road to talk about my thoughts about the Corolla that I got recently. I've been driving it for quite a bit, but I'm actually driving right now to try to get more used to it, sort of break it in, so to say. But I will be talking about like other stuff, car-related stuff in the middle of the video and stuff like that, so this could potentially be a long one. So grab a popcorn or whatever. Do what you gotta do, and then you can probably put this on the background or whatever, because I am going to be talking. But just to get this out of the way, I think overall a car is serving me great right now. Now this is, I guess you can say, first impressions, because I've only had this car for less than a week, so yeah. But I've been driving it quite a bit, and I can definitely tell you some stuff about it. But basically, it's quite a jump, I would say, because I've been driving cars for, let's see, I've been driving cars since I was 18, so we can kind of take a long guess, so probably about, let's see, math, hard, but anyway, actually, I think about 14 or 15 years, no less. Right? No. Let's just say a little under 20 years, right? Pretty close to 20 years, give or take. But anyway, I've been driving quite a bit, though, on the road. So that's kind of my experience with cars. And I do like cars still at this age. But I did have a very sort of spunky outlook on things a long time ago, like a lot of people do, so it's nothing unnatural or not common or anything like that. You know, when you're young, you tend to be pretty energetic and stuff like that, but anyway, I do like the car. It's been serving me pretty well. It's very different because what I was trying to say is that I've been driving like the old cars, the old stuff, for like a pretty long time, and so like having to jump to this all of a sudden, it's definitely something to take in quite a bit. It's a lot to take in. A lot of it does feel like there's a lot of hand holding. Doesn't feel like you're driving the car, so to say. Even back then, probably like the boomers would probably say that kind of stuff for the cars that I first driven with, right? They're probably the same thing, but now I'm saying that kind of stuff here. Like everything just feels like there's a lot of assistance going on, you know, just technology taking over these cars and computers and stuff like that, which is why, you know, it's been tough to get some good deals on cars right now because of the shortage issue and stuff like that. The chip shortage has also affected cars, as well as electronics and video games stuff and graphics cards and the like. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even think that cars would be affected, but yeah, they use microchips and computer chips just like any electronic, really, because how much electronic they have become essentially with their systems. A lot of sensors, a lot of just computers just calculating everything, including like fuel distribution and blah blah blah. You know, there's a lot to it. And yeah, I just didn't even think about that till recently, you know, as I was looking for the car. And sorry, I was at a stop. So it essentially has been quite a lot of information to take in regarding the cars, and taking it all into like steering and all that stuff, like with the Corolla. You know, it's a lot of people have said, I've looked at reviews on the Corolla hatchback, and a lot of people do say about the steering being light, and I can definitely agree on that. It's definitely more on the light side. I usually like it a little more firm, like it just feels like you're actually turning the car and stuff like that. But with this one, it's not so bad to the point where it just feels like, it doesn't feel sturdy or whatever. It does feel, it actually is pretty weird because it does feel sturdy at times, right? It has that nice firm feel at times. It's not too firm, but it kind of gets that once you're like doing something. And I think it's just because that's the computer like trying to like assist you with the steering and stuff like that. I think that's what's happening because you have electronic steering rather than hydraulic steering, power steering. So like basically, as you turn the car, depending on what the conditions are, the computer will kick in or not. But I imagine most of the times. And so the steering does feel really light at times though. Like I can literally like easily turn it with one thumb, at times. Especially when I'm just like driving just through my street, my neighborhood and stuff like that. While, with the other cars, not so much, but it felt great steering it, having to drive just Toyota cars. And having to test drive like several number of cars and driving like my family cars and stuff like that, including the Mini, Nissan, Honda, you name it. So I can definitely tell you that this steering is definitely pretty different. Having to get used to it, but it's not so bad. Again, even though I do like a more firmer side of things and steering response and stuff like that, I do like how it corners. I like how it like turns, how it responds. It's pretty cool, despite all the digital sort of nature to it. And I'm like more of an old school kind of guy, or I'm used to very much the old school kind of stuff. And of course the acceleration, the the pedals, braking and stuff like that does feel like that too. Very much like assisted. I think that's a pretty good word to put it for the just any new car really. It just feels quite assisted. And as I said, or maybe I've basically it feels like there's a lot of hand holding, which for people like me in a similar sort of situation or background could probably like it or not, but in this case I can tolerate it. It's fine. But you may have those people be like, oh, I want to drive the car, that sort of thing. I want to do the driving. And you have those people who always want to drive manual, blah blah blah. And yes, by the way, this is a CVT, so I'm definitely not driving manual because I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of over it at this point of wanting to learn a manual. Now, granted, in a Corolla, the manual transmission is very good, especially with the latest rev matching technology, which basically means it's really hard for you to stall the car. So you have to try to stall the car essentially. Or be really bad at it, I guess. Like I think even like when you're like starting out for the very first time with manual in a car like this, it'd be pretty hard, it sounds like, to stall the car. The way people talk about it makes it sound like it's very much a very good manual transmission, clutch and all. So learning a manual wouldn't be the worst thing in this car especially, but I kind of at this point prefer it to be automatic, just so I don't have to worry about stuff, too much, especially when I'm like on the freeway, and especially like I always think of this scenario where if I like break my ankle or something, right, or sprain my ankle, or I'm in a situation where I had one too many, right, and my friend's driving me back. Well, I can only, rely on that one friend who knows how to drive a manual or stick. They'd have to like probably learn on the fly, either learn on the fly or, you know what I mean, like just hope for the best. But no, especially when they also had some in them, you know, it'd be no kind of very delicate situation, I guess you can say. But basically, the CVT has been pretty smooth. I'm trying to get back on this conversation here, and I do really find it fascinating. Let's put it that way. Because of like oh god, I couldn't see because the truck is like right there in my view. But anyway, or the SUV. The CVT has been really interesting to look into. I always kind of was aware of the name and stuff like that, but I actually never looked into like how it works and blah blah blah. But basically, it's a pulley system now, and basically, you essentially have a lot more gears, quote unquote, to work with. So that's why you don't really like feel any shift shocks other than the first couple of shifts, because this car, what separates it from other CVTs transmissions CVTs is that it has a launch gear, which basically means there's a first gear in it, right? Because CVTs are kind of notorious to have no like little torque, at least off the start anyway. So like, let's see this car go, but basically it's it would feel pretty slow off the start. So that's why they put this this gear, this launch gear in it. You know, Toyota being the geniuses that have been for a very, very long time. They just put a gear in it, and that's a way to get off the line faster. And I definitely do feel that. It's really nice, actually. So at least you get some of that old school feel off the start, and then once you're like cruising along the freeway or whatever, like especially if you're on a long trip, you're gonna like not feel anything. You're gonna feel nothing essentially, which it's nice, you know, depending on who you are. But for the average person, it probably feel nice because you just want like a nice smooth cruise and stuff like that, you know. But if it's just like you and the road, and you're like a grand touring kind of person, then you probably want to feel those like responses and stuff like that. Anyway, people are interesting at the beach. So yeah, CVT is pretty interesting. It it expands and shrinks essentially to become whatever gear it wants to be, quote unquote gear. And because of the lack of the chain, I guess, switching over to the next gear, you're not gonna feel any like shift shock or anything like that. So imagine like a bike, right? A mountain bike, or those like fancy bikes with the gears and stuff like that, you know. And of course, I forget which way it was, but like I think the big one is the one that goes first, and then the higher gear it goes, you know, like 6, whatever, the actual gear is smaller, right? But you get the most speed. But off the start, you have to push the pedal really hard in comparison to the first gear. But yeah, anyway, so that is essentially kind of how it works in traditional automatic transmissions, or just transmission in general. Well, the CVT, there is no gear, essentially. So taking that all in has been fascinating. So yeah, it's been pretty cool so far. I mean, as a guy who does like technology and stuff like that, and implementing that into a car has been pretty interesting, to say the least. Now, yes, there is a sort of auto manual mode, quote unquote, and I do have the paddle shifters and the steering wheel, and I can also use a stick to like push up and down to simulate gears. I have to do the air quotes because there are no gears other than the launch gear. I don't want to do it right now because I'm on the street and I'm like going, I'm like stop and going, so there's no real point here. But once I'm like on the freeway or something, then I'll probably fire up the auto manual mode. But essentially, it makes you feel like you're doing the shifting, right? It makes you feel that way. It's like it essentially is kind of like a video game where you don't really have the clutch, but you have like the triggers or shoulder buttons to shift for you. It kind of feels like that. I've had that with the Toyota Celica. That was an automatic car, and that one had buttons rather than paddle shifters, but it essentially acts like the same thing. But that one had gears, so that one actually felt like you're actually doing something with the car. With this one, the whole simulated feel thing kind of gets a little old. I'm not gonna be honest. So I kind of find myself probably not gonna be using the paddle shifters too much, other than just to kind of like spice up a little bit for a couple moments. So I'll do it right. Well, I'll do it now, and you're not gonna even probably notice it here, but that's because that's really the nature of this auto manual. You see, you can kind of hear the click. I'm shifting through the quote-unquote simulated gears. Although it is nice because if you want to suddenly accelerate to go a little faster, then yeah, it becomes a little handy. But after that, it's so just, you don't really feel it because of the CVT stuff, that you might as well not have the paddle shifters at times. Maybe off the start, or you're like in a situation where you kind of want to like get around the truck or something, or like, certain situations, then maybe the paddle shifters might feel nice. But then after that, if you're on a long cruise, literally no point. Literally no point. And of course there's the sports mode and the eco mode. Eco mode, you can imagine that's just it pretty much is normal mode, and it saves you the most gas as much as possible with your driving style. Sports mode, of course, gives you a little more oomph, which, yeah, you can kind of notice, but it's a Corolla, so don't expect anything, anything sporty too much. Although with that said, for a Corolla, it feels a little peppy because, the whole launch gear thing, it really does help with the experience. It doesn't feel like you're driving this slow car or anything like that. It can go, for a Corolla. But then again, don't expect it to be like super sporty and things like that. But it is nice that they are putting a decent amount of power in these like compact cars, So even the average person can feel pretty good about accelerating and trying to, get on that freeway. You know what I mean? So it is pretty nice that you have more power and yet you're still pretty efficient in a way, and that's just how these car companies have been doing with these cars, especially with Toyota, especially with Honda. They've been doing a really good job, increasing the power while keeping that efficiency that they've been so immaculate for a very long time. I just got off the little stoplight or whatever, and then just accelerated, so it's pretty nice. But now I'm gonna go cruising, so I'm just gonna turn it off for right now. Got a luxury car for a good amount of time now. 16 years, or no, it's a 16-year-old car. But yeah, I got it in I think either 10, 2010 or 2011-ish. So yeah. But yeah, I'm driving along these like little roads and somewhere in Palos Verdes, so you kind of imagine where I'm at right now. And doing these turns and stuff like that is pretty nice. I don't feel any strain or anything harsh or anything like that. The cruising along nicely, I feel. Now you can kind of tell I'm not a professional car reviewer like that, so I'm just kind of yapping along as I go. But it really is a nice real-time experience though with the car so far. Yeah, the whole like steering and all that stuff has been really nice. Actually, I might make a little stop right here, so I do see the water. I'm at the beach-ish. It is pretty nice over here, so. Sorry about that. I was deciding to take a little break. Wanted to check out the sort of the cliffside sort of things with the ocean right here and everything. It's literally right there. And yeah, so pretty funny. Anyway, let's get back on the road. This whole like display has been pretty nice. Something to get used to since I've again driven old cars, blah blah blah, and all that fun stuff. Maybe turn on the AC again. Can't quite see because the phone is like right there, but let me see. There we go. So we're back on the road, and where was I? So let's say steering has been pretty nice. Bumps takes it pretty well. The suspension has been taking it pretty well, and everything. The overall like comfort level is definitely good. I haven't had to use the back support thing that I always had in my my Lexus, because I guess it like sort of came to the point where I had to start using it for my back. But in this car, surprisingly, I don't have to use it, at least for right now. Maybe once I like break it in or something like that, maybe it might warrant that sort of use again. But for right now, I definitely don't really feel the need to do so, which is actually pretty nice. I'm actually gonna just put it in sport mode. Oh, wait, actually no. I'm gonna just. There's the gear number. I was like, where's the gear number or the gear indicator? But it's like in the bottom corner of like the screen, this little screen on my dashboard. Anywho, I do feel comfortable in the car. As a pretty tall guy, I'm like almost 6 feet, just short of an inch, pretty much, or even shorter than that. I'm like very close to being 6 feet. I mean, I guess might as well, because certain places and spaces and certain stuff like that will probably treat you the same-ish. Anyway, I'm around 6 feet, and being in the car has been pretty nice. And I actually sat in the back, and not too bad. The headroom pretty okay. I feel like my head is pretty close to the roof though, or ceiling, excuse me. And pretty much like the legroom in the back is pretty decent, I would say, for a car like this. But I imagine if you have like bigger people though, yeah, it might be a little cramped back there, even if the driver like wants to make room, try to make room for the folks. So I can imagine it might be a little cramped for the bigger people, but still it's there, it'll do the job, seating up to, what is it, 4 more people in here, so maybe, well, comfortably 4 all together. If you need to cramp in that one person, that one more, and it'll, I guess, do the job. But right now, in this day and age, or this time around, probably going to be an uncommon thing. But if you're family, then right, there might be that situation, but or more likely to be having that situation. But like anything else, really, this is definitely the perfect car for Ubering for sure, because of like the gas mileage and all that stuff. Okay, so I guess what happens is when you put your foot down, right, the eco mode turns off automatically, and then it'll go back to normal mode, quote unquote. But then once you start cruising, then it'll activate the eco mode, so that way you're not burning as much gas. Right now, I'm averaging, it says, around 27, it seems like. Although funny, granted, when this car was when it first arrived, it was home delivered, so my dealer had to drive it here to my house from another location, and so that had already like 30 miles on it, so it was technically not entirely brand new, but it's pretty much brand new. So I forgot to say that too. It's a brand new car, which is nice, because this is my first brand new car that I've ever driven, and yeah, it's actually been really nice. Interior stuff, the screen, the backup camera, all the doohickey stuff, been pretty nice. Now I get to like have that sort of quote unquote luxury, even though it's not really a luxury, it's a standard, because that's I guess that's California for you. They make the backup camera standard for newer cars, I think from 2018 and up. So I didn't even know that till recently. So a lot of stuff to take into, I'm just catching up on everything, really. Just about 28 miles to the gallon on average. I'm on the road, so I'm not even on the freeway. It's like, to be precise, it says 27.7. It was 27.6, now it's 27.7. So I'm actually going up in average. So that kind of tells you how much gas mileage you'll be getting in this car, even in the city. So that's actually pretty nice, because I've been driving essentially nothing but gas guzzlers. But well, not gas guzzlers, but like it's kind of weird to see this number, because this is the same number I see when I'm driving on the freeway with the Lexus. But that's what you can expect. It's a V6, so yeah, 2.5 V6. But yeah, a V6 no less. So it'll while have more power, it'll naturally suck up more gas. And alright, we're kind of coming up on some hills and dips and stuff like that, so excuse me if I pause for a couple moments, but yeah, let's see how the car handles it. especially having to come from a luxury car as of recent. So yeah, as my most recent ride. But so far, not too bad. Pretty smooth. Now I'm actually at 28 miles per gallon. Pretty cool. On average. Pretty nice. Let's see. So, gas mileage has been pretty good, of course, with an i4 or 4-cylinder, whatever. Anything else to point out, really? Well, I mean, overall, it's just a great, smooth ride. It's essentially a really good all-around, like, point A to point B car. And I'm definitely happy to say that I definitely will be more than happy to, essentially be driving this for a long, long while. Like, probably another, like, 200,000 miles, give or take. Definitely, because it's a Corolla. They tend to last very long in comparison to other cars. But meanwhile, getting this car has been an interesting story, But, like, with the starting from the Lexus, it essentially started to just die with the transmission. It like was starting to slip or something. Something with the pressure or something like that, the pressure line or something in the transmission was starting to give in. So that's why there were I've had this happen 3 times this past year, where the car, the IS250, just suddenly shut down. Like it essentially, I lost power and it just shut down, right? And there's like no response on the gas. My electronics were still on, strangely enough, but the engine, everything else shut down. Like there was no response on that. So I had to reignite the engine, and then here goes a big dip. But essentially, I had to restart the car and drive it out. Strangely enough, it always happens in a parking lot because I guess driving slow, because I guess there's not enough pressure for the transmission to actually. Whoa! There's a dip. But anyway, that wasn't too bad on the Corolla, but it's that little dip on the somewhere in Palos Verdes. But anyway, that was pretty fun. Oh, nice. A little more bumpy on here, right here, and then I've been on this road a couple of times, at least a couple of times, with all the cars I've driven. Fine enough. But yeah, man. Let's see. So I guess it makes sense now that I think about it, that whenever there's not enough pressure or whatever, enough going on in the transmission line or whatever, it just goes kaput. So that happened twice, actually. The most recent time, which was like back in July. I'm recording this in beginning of August. So it happened by the end or middle of July. I was like picking up some food, right? And I was at a parking lot. Yeah, and it actually happened again. And in fact, it happened twice in a row. So I was like, oh, this is it's starting to look pretty bad. So I had to get lucky, reignite the engine again, and go home, and then pretty much call up the mechanic, and as soon as I could, and had to take a look at it. And essentially, the transmission was gone. Essentially, it had to get replaced sooner or later. And I think even in fact, the mechanic was telling me it was kind of like an ongoing problem, but he did what he could to try to prevent, or try to like really stretch out the transmission, essentially, the life of that transmission. So, he did what he could. It is what it is. But it essentially is kaput. It's done. So, I'm climbing up on 28.5 on the miles per gallon. pretty cool. Well, anyway, it's kind of like I guess a little video game, right? But anyway, yeah. So it was around 100, just under 150 miles, or 150,000 miles, excuse me. That it went kaput with the transmission, which kind of makes sense. I was hoping it to last a little longer because it is a Lexus, but you know, V6 and stuff like that, V6s and all that stuff tends to wear out the transmission a lot faster than one would hope. So I can only imagine what happens with V6 sports cars with their transmissions, especially if they drive it for that hard. But given the circumstances I put it through, you know, it went through college. A lot of driving in college. I didn't dorm, so you can imagine how much driving I did for college. I also did ride shares, including Lyft and of course Amazon Flex. And also I took it to Vegas twice, at least. Because of Evo, funny enough, so that's why. I say, in my eyes, it makes sense of why it, you know, it went out as the way it did. And essentially, you know, yes, I could have swapped out the transmission and call it a day, but transmissions, man, they're not so friendly on the wallet. So for the car, for what it's worth, and also the other sort of things that you have to deal with this, the IS250 specifically, it definitely wasn't worth it in the long run, unless I really like the car. But I'm at that point where I'm like, yeah, you know, updating the technology and stuff like that would be really nice. So that's why we came to the decision that the Lexus was done, essentially. So we traded in, and pretty much prompted the car search, and thus coming to realize of what was going on with the used car market and the new cars as well, which basically you can imagine what happened with graphics cards and game consoles and stuff like that, computers even to some extent, PCs, I guess, pre-built PCs maybe. But anyway, anything that uses a computer chip, it has been affected, and that included cars, which again I didn't think about at the time, but that is a thing. It's the shortage problem is affecting cars. Labor is definitely an issue as well. So that means not as many cars can be produced on top of how cars go through on the regular as well. When it comes to production, it takes a long time to get these cars out, man. It does, processing and everything. And so you can imagine with all the shortages, all the pandemic stuff that happened, it really affected the car market. So for right now, the priority on the chips is all going to, well, guess what? PCs and graphics cards and video game consoles and devices and phones and all that stuff. You can kind of imagine where that's going. So that's why what's happening in the car market, used cars are going up in value, which is great for the sellers. But guess what? When you're trying to go look for a car, it's fucking expensive, right? So on all sides. And what happens with these new cars, they have to mark it up because of the high amount of demand and the supply not meeting it, essentially, and all the shortages and stuff like that. So I guess what they got to do is mark it up because of the demand, the used cars are going up in value because people need them. So they go up in value on all of them. No matter, and of course, even with the mileage and stuff like that, the condition and stuff like that, it'll cost you quite a bit on the wallet. And so in theory, right, if you get a new car, you'll get more bang out of your buck, right? But here's the thing: they mark up those cars at the dealership. So that's why there's a thing called the dealership adjustment or markup adjustment, and essentially they add like upwards of like 10, even like 10K. It was just crazy. I actually went to a dealer that almost did that, and they didn't even disclose that in the advertisement, of course, because they want to go fishing and bait people like me, and you know, that caused some riff in the car search, because there was another Corolla hatchback like this, except it was used. It was 2019, and it was dark blue. It looked pretty nice. It was certified and everything at at Toyota, and it looked really promising. And the cost wasn't pretty. It was pretty decent for what it was, right? Low mileage, everything. It was like pretty much the perfect used car in that given circumstance. But there was a brand new car that cost around that same price. I was like, oh, okay, maybe we should go for this instead. And so we checked out that car. The dealer was like, yeah, by the way, there's a markup adjustment. We're like, what? And he said that they would adjust it to like 7K at this dealership. And I was like, what? In my mind, I didn't say that out loud, obviously, but I was like, what? You're kidding me. So essentially I'm paying for I'm going to be paying over 30K for a car that costs 23. You know what I mean? But yeah, I wind up having to pay around that amount for this car. But it's brand new, whatever, blah, blah, blah. 2022 at that. But you gotta look at the big picture overall in this situation, right? Yeah, I could probably shave off a couple of thousands, but that car, you never know, right? With that used car in that condition, right? Whatever condition it comes with, you never know. So essentially, it's like either take the risk, I guess, or have a brand new title, everything brand new, clean, everything. You don't have to worry about all the accidents or whatever has been through by the owner, essentially. So that's why we sort of came to the decision to just go for the new car at the end of it. So, yep, that is the story of that. All that nonsense. But hey, it is what it is. I was able to, get a car at this point, and yeah, here we are. I'll probably splice in somewhere my first time driving this car, and it was definitely something. I know, and funny enough, I had to go to work at a night shift, driving this car for the very first time. So I'm like learning on the fly, because I'm like, oh shoot, the parking brake is electronic, this and that is electronic, So I'm like, uh-oh. And the backup camera, like, oh shoot, backup camera was pretty cool, but sorry, but the backup camera, I'm like kind of taking it in, right? Brand new car smell, everything, right? But I had to go to work, so. But it was pretty nice, trying to, discovering how the car is and stuff like that. It's pretty nice. Of course, it's kind of like, getting that new phone. You want to like mess around with it, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, this is what it is, man. And I just saw a used school bus with the AC unit stuck on the back. Life is full of surprises, isn't it? Anyway, it's like a decommissioned school bus, it looked like, and it just had a AC unit stuck in the back, like with like wood and everything. It's pretty funny looking. But yeah, anywho, so yeah, that Lexus unfortunately went kaput, simply put, and had to get this car, essentially. Now, this car, it's a Corolla, so you think like, oh, I guess you couldn't find any cool sports cars and like that. Nah, I actually was trying to look for a Corolla, because I kind of just want a car that just goes point A to point B, because I've been through all that for at least 16 years. I'm okay with this car for right now. And, I get all the little doohickey gadgets and all that stuff, so being in the car, in the interior, being all nice looking and everything is going to be a nice experience to just have me held over until I don't know, maybe another 10 years or something. Another 16 years maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. Although I will say this, it is weird to drive a car that is something that a lot of people have, right? Because I've driven cars where it's kind of uncommon, right? The Celica GTS 2001, pretty uncommon at the time I drove it when I was like 18 years old. And then by the time I got the Lexus IS250, people, not as many people drive it because it's a luxury car. You know, and I had eyeballs on this car. Like they're like, oh, pretty cool, man. Like, you know, nice dark blue, blah blah blah. And now I'm just driving a Corolla, right? So it's like, you know, it's just that car. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird to drive that sort of vehicle, you know. But I'm fine with that. Like I said, kind of want a car that takes me A to B, and it's built like a tank. So that's what the Corolla is going to be. So it's going to hopefully be serving me well for a long time. Hopefully, I try to keep this as long as I can. And so we shall see where this goes. But for right now, I like it. Glad I was able to find the right car in these sort of circumstances that sort of check off those little requirements, my personal little requirements. I would have looked into Civics, but my friend already has one. Funny enough, it's Adam. Already has a Civic, so it's like, yeah, come on. a lot of people have Civics too, of course. So there's a lot of Corollas too, but amongst the circle, I'm probably or close circle. I mean, I'm probably the only one with a Corolla. So funny enough. But I did want to keep it Toyota/Lexus, right? You know, Toyota and Lexus, they're the same pretty much entity. Of course, Toyota being the leading one, I think. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, I'm a Toyota man. You know, I want to keep that going, and essentially, it would be pretty nice to keep driving Toyotas for a very long time. And I mean, they've been around for a long time for a very good reason. That's a Corolla sedan. Sedans are more common for sure when it comes to Corollas. So, all right. I mean, a little more uncommon within that sort of circle, I guess. I think right now I'm in around the San Pedro area, so I'm like right around where like Cabrillo Beach would be or whatever. So, but again, just to kind of like sum it up, I'm glad I was able to get a Corolla hatchback. It feels great. Acceleration's not too bad. You know, the power and stuff like that, it's not too bad for what it is. Given that they've been giving it more oomph in these like compact cars, and gas mileage hasn't been too bad. It's weird to see pretty high numbers, despite me only driving in the city so far, technically. So it's actually kind of a nice little contrast, I guess you could say. And one more thing I almost forgot to say about gas. This is the first time I'm driving now a car that requires regular gas. The Celica GTS and the IS250 love to suck up some premium 91 octane, man. It's actually pretty funny to think about. So I guess that's essentially it. It sums it up all right. So I guess if I were to give it a rating, I don't know, I guess I give it a 9 out of 10 essentially. I mean, there is some improvement to be had, I guess, with some of the features it comes with standard. You know, there are some stuff locked behind some options, right? I guess you can say it's DLC for the gamers. That whole conversation has been ridiculous with BMW with the monthly subscription stuff on stuff that's already in your car. That's ridiculous. But anyway, that's for another conversation. I would give this a 9 out of 10. Yeah, for what it is. It's going to take me A to B. But hey, getting there will be a pretty decent experience at least. Pretty nice. You know, I have a touchscreen and everything, so I don't have to like look down on my phone to change my songs or anything like that. So it's pretty nice. Navigation's like boom right there. And yeah, man, it's a pretty nice update. Pretty big upgrade, essentially, especially with the electronics. So yeah. But yeah, thank you very much for all of you for tuning in. It means a lot. And don't forget to like and subscribe, blah blah blah. You know the drill. I do have that membership, so if you want to take a look at that, I really do appreciate it. To help support the channel while you get some emotes out of it. And basically, if you want to comment anything about the Corolla or anything related with cars, I'm happy to try to see if I can reply with more car talk. So, because I still do like talking about cars, at least here and there. So, comment down below. We really like to try to respond to the comments. But anyway, thank you for tuning in for essentially this is like a review / impression / video car vlog, whatever, the driving vlog on the road sort of essentially on the road sort of like vlog, so pretty funny. So alright, I'll let you guys go. Thank you very much. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one and take care. Sean out.